Hey, everybody, this is the Scary Movie Project, that podcast where we talk about scary movies. I'm Tara.
Hey, and I'm Matt. And today, the gates of hell are open. In Seventh Moon, Melissa and her Chinese-American husband are honeymooning in China during the Hungry Ghost Festival. At night, they come across a village where they discover the legend is real.
That's right. And today, we're doing something a bit different. We have horror legend, filmmaker Eduardo Sanchez with us to talk about his movie. Now, as most of you probably know, Ed is renowned for his movie, The Blair Witch Project, which broke records for budget to gross production cost and launched a new style of horror film, not to mention a ton of spoofs.
That is right. We are happy about that. He's helmed several other movies, including Lovely Molly and Altered, and many which we hope to discuss on upcoming episodes. Done some TV work as well. Ed, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. We are thrilled. Anything else our fans want to know? And please introduce yourself, and thank you for coming.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. Seventh Moon is a movie that I rarely get to talk about. So when I saw you guys on Facebook about to talk about it, I was like, hey, I could talk a little bit about that movie. No, but thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I'm just basically, I think you nail. I mean, I don't know about the whole horror legend thing, but
definitely,
I do my best. I think I've got a good career. I can't complain, and I've gotten lucky a lot. I'm like mostly right now working on television, and right now everybody we're just kind of stuck in our houses and doing a lot of the TV development and stuff like that, and feature development. But I'm real happy to talk to you guys.
Excellent. And I know you've done episodes of one of my favorite movies that I've loved, or TV shows, that I've loved forever, Supernatural. So I was very excited when you did those.
Yeah, I finished the last episode that I did, that I directed, I guess early this year. And it was weird because, these people have been together for 15 years, and it was kind of crazy that they had let me in at the end of the last 5 years of the run. I had been a part of it, and it was very emotional. And then my episode, they stopped. They aired the episode right before mine, and then now they're in a hiatus or whatever because of the COVID hiatus. So my episode hasn't aired yet. Hopefully I think it'll be the first episode that starts the new because they shot all of them except the last 2 or 3, I think. So they're waiting to see when they can come back and start shooting it and finish the show, So.
Oh, sweet. I will be waiting for it because I love that show.
Yeah, it's a great show.
So let's dive right in, right?
Sure.
So Seventh Moon. When I watch this, I see a tragic love story. They're in this hellish situation they can't get out of, but they're trying to get through it together. I mean, Yul sacrifices himself for Melissa. She goes after him. So where did you sort of formulate that idea? Where did that come from for you?
It was, the original idea was we were supposed to make 3 films in China. Through this filmmaker named Ann Liu, we got we were, this is obviously early 2000s, and we were thinking about doing some films in China. There was an opportunity. There was a studio that wasn't being used, and there was some money, and we were like, yeah, make a movie in China. That would be awesome, what an adventure. So we started developing. We were going to make 3 films, and everything basically fell apart other than Seventh Moon. And the Seventh Moon is what the idea I came up with. And I can't remember the initial idea of it. My whole thing was to create a night in hell. And I was thinking
it was
China, basically. And China to me was a very especially back then. Even now, it's it was a very mysterious place. It was a place that had major history, but it was so had been locked down for so long that most of us on this side of the world didn't they knew the kind of what filtered through about China. And I was started looking at Chinese legends and just kind of horrific, stuff like that could work for a horror film. And I found, the whole Hungry Ghost Festival and, the whole idea that, you leave these offerings out for these ghosts, for these, your ancestors. And, and I thought it was really cool. And so I started thinking about it. And I was just wondering, imagine, a newlywed couple, going and kind of getting in over their heads. And I always thought there was going to be a small cast, and so
Definitely
that's
got
kind
a
of
small cast.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
kind of the idea that kind of sprung out like one night, and for me it was also production, like trying to make it where like how do you make how do you light night but not really light it, like how do you approach that, the aesthetic of like really shaky handheld, kind of nightmarish, kind of tagging along kind of stuff, and the movie I had done before, Altered, was pretty much like I had really kind of, the camera was not stationary, but it was always kind of still, like I don't think I had any handheld in Altered, kind of to go away from Blair Witch. So I wanted to go the other way with this one and I wanted to go like really kind of aggressively handheld and short, and long lenses and, like I wanted to, like, again, create a night in hell for these two people that are like in love and starting the beginning of this beautiful journey that they think they're through life, and they end up in China and shit goes wrong.
Yeah. So I think you answered part of one thing I wanted to know about was Halloween's like my favorite day of the year, right? And I love everything about it and every custom, and I love to learn about around the world places to celebrate it.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, this Hungry Ghost Festival. I don't know a lot. I've seen a little bit about it. So yeah, did you know a lot about this, or did you kind of read up on this beforehand and then decide to use it? Where did you come up with that to use as like your idea for it, I guess?
It was, I read a bunch of stuff, and the Hungry Ghost Festival was just, it's kind of like the Halloween,
right?
Again, and I love Halloween.
I think we all do. Yes.
I mean, come on. So the idea was just to imagine, people being, sent out on Halloween, but like a real hardcore Halloween, like somewhere, in the country. And the original idea actually that I came up with before the Chinese thing was like, when I before going to China, was the idea that somewhere in, it was kind of like I was trying to make it in the United States, like some people get stuck, kind of like a very, like my favorite films are the films that kind of do just one night of, like a nightmarish night.
Yeah.
And I wanted to play with ghosts and stuff. And then when the Chinese idea came up, I was like, oh my God, that idea would work so much better in China because, we don't know about, it's more mysterious. The history is longer in China,
Yeah.
Goes back thousands of years. And, and it'd be, it would make it cool, a better playground, So then I went and researched stuff, and I found the Hungry Ghost Festival. I was like, oh my God, imagine if like this couple was like dropped off, on the Hungry Ghost night, and they didn't have enough sense to like, not book their honeymoon during the Hungry Ghost Festival. So it was, that was kind of the idea. And then once I started, looking at the images and doing research about how hardcore they are, it really inspired me. I was like, wow, I mean, imagine the stuff that happens in like small villages and stuff, and also just like, there was like so much creepy imagery, and foreign, to me, it's like, there was like, the mystery of China is really, to me, what like the main thing that drew me to the story.
Right.
Eastern like folklore and stuff like that's it's fascinating. Absolutely.
Americans
that's
getting
cool.
into shit they can't handle.
Yeah. And that whole thing, like stupid Americans.
Right. And they happen to be there at the worst possible time. Yeah, it didn't work out.
Yeah, they're just like, we'll be all right,
And it's funny because they kind of talked about how, didn't they mention a couple times they could have been in wherever else, but instead they're here for this thing, and they're like,
she wanted to go somewhere else,
right?
Or, as I remember, but it was, and I had, I was still, it was a long time ago, so I had just been, 3 or 4 years earlier, I had been on my honeymoon, and it was like we went to Italy, and it was such a beautiful trip, and again, it was like this, like we were so like young and like just kind of frolicking. The whole world was ahead of us, and I was like, so I got a lot of inspiration from the good times that I had in Italy with my wife.
That's cool. Very good.
That's cool. So what really, one of the things that really got me about this movie was the sound design, like how high it keeps the tension. And I noticed it seems like most of it was diegetic, right?
Yeah.
You didn't use too much music. So Can you talk to us a little bit about that? Was that an idea that you had from the beginning, or did that sort of develop in production?
Yeah, I mean, to me, like the music at the end of Blair Witch,
Mm-hmm.
which is, it's like this weird cacophony of sounds by Tony Cora. To me, that was like, to me, horror is like, there's like a, like there's like to me that's like a nightmare sound, and to me horror films are like nightmares. So sometimes when horror films use like conventional, orchestras and kind of conventional instruments, it kind of pulls you away a little bit. It has to be done really well.
Yeah.
But for something to really kind of creep you out, you kind of have to go, primal with it, like sounds and anything familiar. A violin or something. I think to me,
Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the piano wire sound.
Yeah, like just
so
weird sounds.
perfect.
So and so on Seventh Moon, Tony again came in to do the music, and I wanted something, very little melody, like just sometimes little bits, and actually there is music. There is a lot of music, but like I wanted it to be part of the background. I wanted it to be, where you couldn't tell that. Oh, is that a score? Or is that some sound coming from?
Yeah, definitely. For the most part, what comes through is that diegetic, all the night sounds and everything.
Yeah.
And it's just it adds so much to the creepiness.
And then we once we shot the film, we went and mixed. Tony did the score and with a guy named Ken Sparling, who was a guy who was who's also a great musician, and his stuff. I listened to a lot of his stuff during the writing of Seventh Moon, and he was a sound mixer that we had met while we were mixing Altered in at Skywalker Sound, which is a whole we do a whole other show on Skywalker Sound. So
amazing,
So we went back to Skywalker Sound to mix the music, not only mix the music, but to mix the movie. So it was, it was like like a little geeky vacation at the end of a movie shoot. I love Skywalker Sound. It's like one of my favorite places on earth, and the people there are incredible. And the mix was very much like we had already done Altered with them, and we brought basically the same team back to do Seventh Moon. So it was, even though Altered still has like, instrumentation is still strange, there is a lot more melody and a little more like, conventional kind of music. With Seventh Moon, I wanted to go, I wanted them to go crazy and just create like this soundscape that kind of mixed in, like you were saying, mixed in with like the natural ambience that you would expect, in the scenes, so.
That's awesome.
Very cool.
All right, technical stuff. Okay, so I am the guy that sits in either in the theater or at my house, and I watch the credits till the very, very end, literally everything. All right, so I see Panasonic cameras, 2008. Tell me you used the Panasonic DVX100, which is like my love camera of all time. I want to know what you did to shoot this with. What gear did you use?
Yeah, that's what we used.
Yes. I love that camera.
You just made Matt so happy.
I shot so much stuff with that camera. Oh, I love that camera so much. Yes, outstanding.
It was a great camera. I mean, we were. It had a lot of cameras at that age. Like the grain had a lot of grain in the night stuff.
Yeah.
But I kind of liked it, and then we cleaned it up a little bit later after we shot it. But yeah, I love the look of it, and it kind of. It's just this raw kind of quality. It looks. It kind of gives it like a 16 millimeter feel, like a film feel.
Yep.
But yeah, and in that movie, like technically, the idea was to kind of not do improv like it was for Blair Witch, but to be able to let the actors kind of move in a space and then have the camera operators follow them, as best they can. So we messed around with like a lot of balloon lights, and we knew the movie was going to take place at night, so we, the lighting was really important. So we practiced a lot of balloon lights, kind of putting them high up, and then being able to follow the actors throughout all this kind of, territory.
So I was going to ask you that you did shoot all at night. You didn't do any night for day.
No, No, we didn't. I mean, and it was a crazy shoot. I mean, we were like, I was one of the main. I was, I guess, the B camera operator, and then we had three cam. The DP did one, and then Greg, my partner, usually did the third one if we had room for it. But yeah, it was all at night, so there was like it was really depressing. I mean, to tell you the truth, I had just finished Altered, and Altered was it was just going to be this huge movie, the follow up to Blair Witch, and it ended up going straight to DVD. It was really disappointing for us. The studio.
And it was so cool, though.
I mean, it was. I mean, look, the studio called it a tweener, which is like, it's not really a horror film and it's not really a comedy. It's kind of like, it's, and I think I love tweeners. Like, I think some of my favorite films are tweeners, but commercially it's very difficult to market, and also, I mean, there was a lot of political stuff too. Like, a lot of the people that had bought the movie were gone by the time it came to release it. So there was, a change in the guard, and, a lot of times that happens. And also, the Universal had just released, what's the movie with, anyway, they had released, I think, Slither. They had released Slither.
Yeah.
Right.
That movie was gross.
I love that movie.
It is good, though. Yeah, it's good.
But it made no money, and it was kind of the same thing. It was like kind of horror, dark comedy, kind of, kind of comedic a little bit, and so they lost the money, and then they were like, no, we're not going to release another movie. Like, we can't, it's just not going to happen. So I was really disappointed about that, and I went into China. We went to China, and I brought the family, and we're shooting at night, and I just my insecurities as a filmmaker, and like just everything started piling up, and I had written this one, like I had really kind of put my heart and soul into it. But and then just the shooting at night is just we had like 5.5 weeks of night. We had like, I think,
summertime.
2 days.
What time of year was it?
This was in no, not summertime, but like late spring, I want to say. Oh, wait a second. No. It was fall.
Okay.
It was fall. So the weather was not bad. It did get hot, but it wasn't like crazy. I mean, at the beginning when we were scouting and stuff, it was really hot. But and night. But it was it's Hong Kong, and also it's we wanted to shoot in mainland China, but it just became a night. It was just a pain. Like, they were gonna have to give them the script. We were gonna have to like write a fake script because they don't let you shoot anything about ghosts. They don't. There's no ghosts in China.
Really?
Yeah. So we couldn't. Yeah. So our guy was like, well, you just rewrite the script without ghosts, give that to them, and then you just shoot the movie you want. I'm like, well, I don't know. So we ended up in Hong Kong, and Hong Kong. The problem with Hong Kong is that it's it's very much more westernized. It's kind of it's the English were there, so it's very different than China. There, people talk shit about the government. It was kind of weird, like, to hear people talking about shit about the Chinese government, in Hong Kong. So, but in they've been making films for decades. I mean, they just great movies have been made there. So, but there's no space. There's no like parks with like, there's no forests, or like, we're looking for like to do something really isolated. Hong Kong's been developed beyond, anything,
Right.
So we ended up shooting a lot of it in graveyards.
Wow.
Because that's
That's
the only area that
added,
they.
Yeah.
Okay, that trivia should be on your IMDb page for this.
Yeah,
That's
so like
good.
all those, like the I guess pretty much the vast majority, like where the car gets stuck, and where the guys attack the car, and where they run, and that whole, pretty much like half the movie was shot in 2 graveyards,
Wow.
And
oh my gosh, that's so creepy.
Yeah, I mean, it was, and like, there's different traditions there, and like they take the remains out after a while and put them in an urn. There's like different. So you have like these places where you're just walking through the wood, through the grass, and your foot kind of sinks, and it's a grave. But I mean, it's the things have been removed, but you're like, oh my god, a dead body laid here for
Right.
10, for
Oh my
15 years or
God.
whatever. Like,
Oh my
and
god.
it's just like you're like, it's just really really strange. So yeah, so that was an added bonus. But I remember like Amy Smart and me like sitting in her trailer during lunch, middle of the night, and just kind of like we were both like, you know, we helped each other out, but it was just like we were just like I was like I'm just so down. I just just feel like, and she was like, yeah, I'm feeling the same way, So it was I mean, it was a cool shoot. Like looking back on it, it was really cool. Like thinking,
Hmm.
the people we worked with, the crews are amazing in Hong Kong, and it's completely different than the United States. So there was like a huge learning curve for us, but it was such a great, it was just such a great experience.
So you know what? There was one thing I was going to ask you about, but you kind of covered it. But if you want to keep going on, I was going to say specifically, yeah, why Hong Kong, and then yeah, how much fun or challenges did you have? I guess, but I don't know. You mentioned a lot of it right there, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, it was, night shoots in general suck because
Sure.
Yep.
you're
Oh yeah.
and I had my wife and two kids were there, and I basically come home in the morning and try to get some sleep, hang out with them for a little bit, and then try to get at least 6 hours of sleep, and then get up, hang out with them a little bit, and then go back as the sun's setting. You're going. It's just really depressing, like.
It's just so
And
backwards.
yeah, and then on the weekends, you have to kind of remain. You can't go back to normal because then Monday's going to be a nightmare. So, you it was tough, but it was a lot of fun. Also, like a lot of the weekends were amazing, and we got to see a lot of things, and my kids like have like you could tell like the enhancement in their lives, like the
Hmm.
growth of just being in Hong Kong for 3 months. Especially my daughter, like kind of blew her mind and like really affected her in a really positive way. So it was and it was a great trip. Just the movie was it was tough for sure.
So three it
Yeah.
was 3 months, 3 months shoot.
It
Rough-
was
roughly.
a 3 month. It was 3 month. Yeah, out there. It was a 6 week shoot.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, it was 3 months with prep and everything.
Okay.
Yeah, I can only imagine the shooting nights compounded with jet
Shoot.
lag
Oh man. Yeah.
must be
Yeah.
kind of a nightmare.
Yeah, and also the crew. Like there's only a few people that spoke English, so there was always a challenge as far as like communication.
I was going to ask you. Yeah,
Um,
language barrier was that ever an issue? Yeah, that's interesting for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, it was like you know. First of all, there's a few people that spoke pretty perfect English, but most of them was broken. You
Hmm.
could communicate with people for sure. It wasn't that big a deal, but it was just like they work differently there. Like there's no like just a pretty clear example is like most of the time lunch. Even if you're on location on an American or
Hmm.
regular shoot, they have a tent set up and they have tables, and you go and you get your food. Here it was like literally like the car would pull up with like a bunch of styrofoam stuff, just random food, and people would go and grab the thing and sit on the side of the road while we're in the middle of shooting. All right, lunchtime. Everybody just kind of hangs, and
In the
everybody
middle
just
of a
kind of
graveyard.
Yes.
in the
yes.
middle of the
In
graveyard.
the middle of the
And I
graveyard.
have so many photos of just people sitting around eating,
It's awesome.
noodles and rice and all this great food
Right.
just on the side of it. And it was cool. It was kind of like film school. Like, there's no like, where's my tent and where's my table? And,
Sure.
it was like,
Hmm. Hmm.
and also they have like, there's a lot of like cross pollination as far as like, I don't know if that's the right word, but it popped into my head. Between the departments, like there's like an example, like the guy who did Amy's hair, and Amy's like L.A. star, like
Hmm.
there's a certain kind of hairstylist you got to get, certain caliber of makeup artist, and this guy was like one of the best hairstylists in Hong Kong, and and so he would do Amy's hair and then whatever, and then he would get bored, so he would go out and like. I caught him. I mean, I saw him doing Boom. I saw him doing,
Yeah.
Slate. I saw him like chop. There was one thing where we were putting bumps in the road. I saw him like cutting wood, like working for
That's
the art
funny.
department. Like it was just, it's kind of like a free for all. Everybody just goes and this needs to be done. Everybody goes and grabs it. But the problem is that there is a little bit of, at least for us, like a miscommunication between the departments as far as like responsibilities. Sometimes the responsibilities are like, oh no, that's that department, and then the other department says, no, that's
Sure.
that's the other department.
Mm-hmm.
So a couple of some things kind of fell through the cracks, but and then it was it was a learning curve, but a lot of fun and great, really great experience for everybody involved.
That's awesome.
Really, hope.
Good.
So I wanted to ask about the script because the lines and the blocking too, like they seem so natural and organic. Was there any improv on the set, or was that all like just fully scripted? Like, how did all that come together?
It was fully scripted, but I'm always like really open to switching lines unless it's something like technical that needs to hit later or whatever.
Mhm.
Or you need a line a certain line here that's going to play later in the film. I'm always like open to switching things around, as finding the kind of the essence of the scene, and if it needs to be a line change, then I'm cool with it. Um, so they're definitely following a script, but I let them kind of be themselves and improvise, and the blocking, like I like for this one, it was like, again, I had this in normal films, the blocking is you have to kind of figure out the blocking. The blocking becomes more of a thing while you're writing. You think, oh, this person's going to sit on this side of the table, and
Mm-hmm.
you kind of think of it as you write. And for this one, there was like the idea was like to kind of let them wander. So the blocking for me was like them running, and then here, and then a lot of the blocking was like, well, once we get there, we'll figure it out. You know what I mean? Like the
Mm-hmm.
actual what's actually happening. But yeah, it was just kind of like, to me, it was like a very you kind of explain the action and then let the actors kind of figure it out, and then figure out where you're gonna the places where you're gonna stop, and try to get focus marks, and kind of at least try to prep as much as you can. But a lot of it was
Mm-hmm.
just us with the camera and focusing on just walking and focusing ourselves. Like it felt very much like a school, like a film school project for
Yeah.
sure at certain points, except there's 100 people around getting paid. Um,
I think you could
so
really feel that I don't know if the word is looseness, but
yeah,
organic, like just letting it flow in a very positive way, like in a really good way.
yeah.
You could feel that like things are happening and we're catching them
Yeah.
as they
That was
happen.
that was the thing. That was kind of the that's what I wanted to do, is basically just kind of travel with these people, and almost like a documentary, but like this horrific night of these people's lives. Um, and so that was kind of, it was very much like kind of we had a lot of freedom, and also
Mhm.
like just camera angles. There was, the lighting was very unobtrusive. A lot of it was like at night was just basically hanging balloon lights, or um, 12Ks up on stands, and just kind of filling this whole area with like kind of an ambient light. So uh, it was just like kind of it was a cool little exercise, and then I wanted to feel loose. I wanted the movie to feel very loose and very kind of frenetic.
Mhm. It
S-
definitely worked.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Let me ask you this: what about what were the names of the creatures? The gray. I
The
forget.
moon
Is that what
demons.
they were?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the moon demons. Yeah. I
Yeah. Were they real? Were they? How much was CG? Like, yeah. How did you guys do those?
There was no CG. I mean, the only CG we did was at the end, when they at the end, the culmination, when they kind of fade away as
Mm-hmm.
they get to
The
her.
dust.
Right.
Yeah, like that was, we were originally gonna just like kind of do a cut, and she was gonna be, there was no, but we were like, man, it'd be cool to do some kind of effect, to show these things fading away or whatever. So um, we did that, but other than like painting stuff out, sometimes we painted out lamps and lights and stuff like that. There was all the ghosts were just these poor poor Chinese guys, naked in the woods. I mean,
Oh,
it
man.
was the Moon Demon thing was a really we had it was a really challenging kind of weird idea that I was like the idea of like this white spectral kind of
Mhm.
creature with like skin that like kind of flakes off and kind of dry and raspy
And those empty eyes, which is
yeah.
why I kind of thought, oh, they must have done something in post to
Yeah,
like
no,
get them to look that empty.
the eyes
Okay.
were contact lenses again. Those poor
Mm.
men. But it was
They
like
had the
a
scleral, the like full.
yeah. They
Oh,
had the
oh man.
yeah. I think it was those. I'm not sure what we had because there was like a whole. I mean, and
Mhm.
that whole thing of putting things in lenses. People in lenses in people's eyes. It's just a real shaky thing anyway. So we were, it was really challenging. So basically, we hired Spectral Motion, who had done the effects for Altered, to design the creature and to to design the makeup and stuff. And this one of the Spectral Motion, Larry, I can't remember Larry's last name, but he was with us pretty much during the whole shoot. But he basically trained a little group of makeup artists to apply this makeup and like to remove it, and it was a long process. And then and also like in the men, the Chinese men are for the most part like very guarded, like they don't so having them like wear those cod pieces, like that was a huge thing, like you know just to figure out, because we took a lot of them were because we talked, it
Mhm.
was like would some of them just be willing to wear like just kind of play it natural or whatever, and they're like, no, there's no way, man, they're so we had to design this thing that hid their junk, and and even with that, like as the makeup, because it's just basically a layer of latex or whatever throughout over their entire body,
Mhm.
that was like painted on or whatever. I have video of these 6 or 7, I mean, 6 or 7 guys getting painted, and it was crazy. And then once the latex was hardened, then they would go in and paint it, airbrush the highlights and all that stuff. So it was a hell of a process,
Yeah.
And these poor guys, like it was cold out there sometimes in the nights, and
Oh.
Yeah.
they'd be like in their things and all right guys, let's do one more, and they take them off, and but they were hardcore, man, and they all of them um, did a great job, and it was crazy. It was a hell of an experience. That was a hell of a technical thing, but I wanted my whole thing was like I wanted everything to be natural. um, I don't want any CG. I don't want these guys being CG. I want them to be physical there.
I love practical effects.
Yeah, it's the best.
Yeah, I mean, it
Yeah.
was kind of cool. So, I mean, I think for me, like the I think the ghost thing was like a great success. Like they came out looking pretty much exactly the way.
What-
They were so creepy.
What
And to be
reminds-
honest,
Yeah.
the fact that you had to like make them neuter, like kind of made it even creepier.
Yeah, it was like
It was part of that,
yeah,
like, this is out of this earth.
Sure.
Yeah, and our whole thing, like during the thing, was like, should we have female ghosts, and I was like, well, because then that's like, what are you going to do with the breast, and does it become more distracting, like it's just like these weird things. So I kind of came up with a theory, is like the idea that like the male hierarchy is even like the male ghosts are the ones that go out and do the trouble, while the female ghosts, they're responsible for other haunts, like maybe in the house or something. I don't know. Just came up with it. Like there's got to be some kind of hierarchy, because why aren't there any women,
Right.
ghosts?
They're at home barefoot in the kitchen.
Like,
sure.
yeah, again,
Yeah,
like this really like sexism
Yeah.
exists in the ghost world
I was
too.
gonna say it's everywhere. Yeah, you can't get away
Yeah.
from it in any sort of
Yeah.
reality.
Heavy sexism.
Oh my
we can't
goodness.
escape.
But really, for us, it was just a practical thing of like, do we really want naked women out there, and how like
Sure.
I don't know. It was just a weird thing for me, and
Yeah.
and we kind of fudged it at that point. But looking back on it, I mean, you know, if I would have done it again, if I would do it again, I think that, you know, I would work it out and figure out something to, to somehow include all kinds of different, creatures and stuff. But um, you know, maybe for part two.
There's the part near the end when she's down in the cave or whatever. She's got the phone as her light.
Yeah,
That reminded me of the movie The Descent with the
yeah,
creatures and the same kind of look. And she's
Mm-hmm.
in that cave. When I saw it, I was just thinking, this is like The Descent. Yeah, it reminded me of that in a way. That was interesting.
yeah. I mean, the Descent. I mean, I love the Descent,
Yeah.
but it was like a really. It came out right because I came out right before we. Um, I don't know if we were shooting or it was something where we're like, oh my god, like why did he come out? What are the chances?
Right.
So the concept of the ghost came out of our heads before the Descent, and then once we watched the Descent, we're like, whatever. But we felt like that our movie was different enough,
No, sure. Yeah.
obviously. But yeah, it was. Because when I saw this now, I was like, yeah, that's similar to the ghost demons, even though ours are different. It's a whole different, it's a supernatural
of
kind
course.
of thing, whatever.
Mhm.
But yeah, that definitely took a little bit of wind out of our sails. That's for sure.
Well,
No,
and I
that's good,
know
though.
another movie came out far after yours, but Matt had mentioned after he saw Seventh Moon that he saw a little bit of similarities to Midsummer. So curious what you thought of Midsummer in that sort of American fish out of water.
And Americans are going to be killed. Yes. Yeah. pretty
Yeah,
much.
Yeah,
and
I
Americans
mean,
are
You
going to be killed.
foolish Americans. Yes.
Yeah, I haven't seen Midsummer. It was one. It's like on my.
Tara loves it.
I
Oh
love
my
it.
god! It's like one of these movies that I've been wanting to see since it came out. I missed it in the movie theaters, and then I have it on my Prime list. Like I'm
Me
like,
too.
I gotta
Same
see
thing.
it.
Yep. I never got
It's
around
great.
to
Well,
that.
You can
It's one of
listen
these
to our podcast episode on it.
Which will ruin it
Yeah,
for
no.
you, though.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah, it
gotta
does
see it.
ruin
I mean, I loved Hereditary, so
Yeah,
it,
that's good.
it's
Oh, Hereditary is so good.
Yeah.
yeah. So, but yeah, no, I have to check it out because somebody else told me about that too.
Yeah, I'll be
the-
interested
I
what
just
you
thought
think
of that,
because
yeah.
it does have that same kind of American fish out of water,
Right.
like getting into this situation where it's
Sacrifices and
the
offerings.
sacrifices, the offerings. Yeah,
Right.
it's
Yeah,
definitely-
now
That's
I got to check it out.
you got to check it out and let us know what you
very
think.
different, very, very different films, each one. But that
Yeah.
Mhm.
aspect of it kind of reminded me in a little way of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. I got to see it.
Okay, so if we're talking about movies, other movies, I want to know what movie of yours you're the most proud of, and then maybe we can all share our favorites too.
I think it's like your kids. You're proud of all your kids. And you can't really. It's hard to pick a favorite kid, but I think for me, like the movie that I feel most comfortable about and most like that I thought I was in control for the most of it, was is Lovely Molly. Because with the lovely Tara.
That was
That's right.
I was going to say that I won't. It's not just because I got lucky enough to be in it, but that's my favorite.
Yeah,
It was
so
It was
creepy.
good.
yeah. I mean I was thinking about your part the other day, Tara. Like the ending. I was like, I never thank you for your performance because it really without that, that hysteria at the end of the movie, that
Aw.
really pays off. It's such a tragic thing, but it really needed that. Like if your performance had been anything less, the whole film I think could have collapsed. And I never
Oh,
thanked
thank
you for
you. That's
it.
thank you. That's really
Good. Yeah, that's awesome.
really kind of that gives me chills. It's really nice to hear.
Because it made some list the other day, and I was thinking about it a little bit, and and I was like, why people were talking about the ending or whatever, and I was like thinking back on the ending, I was like, yeah, it's hard, if it wasn't for her, it's like the culmination of the evil is right there in your performance. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
All that the evil did, all the things that went bad. So anyway, thanks for
We'll
that.
have to
Appreciate that.
do an episode where we talk about Lovely Molly, so we
Yeah,
can
that
talk
would be-
about all
that-
that
I-
stuff.
that would
It'll
be
be
great.
really cool.
But
Yeah,
I
my
think-
husband and his best friend to this day maintain that that is the most disturbing movie they've ever seen.
Wow, how about
Oh
that?
wow, that's great.
That's awesome.
That's quite a
It's a good accomplishment.
It's
Yeah.
quite an accomplishment. Yeah, coming from my sick mind.
That's right.
No, and it was like a movie that was again like it was a difficult movie. All my movies have been difficult. I mean, I think probably Exist was probably the easiest as far as like just most fun.
Mhm.
But Lovely Molly was like it really was almost like a like I went through like a I don't know like some kind of traumatic psychological thing with that movie because I was really depressed and it was a lot of and you could tell but and especially during the editing like I really
It's a dark movie.
Oh
it's
yeah.
a dark movie and it was a really dark place to be but I love it I'm glad people dig it and I'm glad it's out there.
Good.
So Matt, I asked this knowing the answer full well.
Okay.
What is your favorite movie from Ed Sanchez?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I make no bones about it, Ed, and you'll find this through time. The Blair Witch Project is one of my favorite movies ever. It is one of the few movies that I have gone. So I was lucky enough to go see it opening night in July of 1999 in a theater.
Nice.
And I thought it was real, and it scared the living hell out of me. And I think I spent that evening afterwards drinking a 12-pack of beer and a pack of cigarettes because I couldn't go to sleep. Pretty sure I was up till the sun came up, and I have been in love with that movie ever since. I think it's fantastic, and not much scares me anymore. I'm trying to think of stuff that has, and that besides that, in the last 20 years, I can't think what else. I just think the whole idea behind it is just genius. What you guys did was cutting edge and hadn't been done. So kudos to you guys. That was amazing for coming out and doing that.
Well, thank you, man. Thank you. I mean, it was, I mean, it's like, it's one of these things that.
And it's still scary. I mean, I know now
yeah,
it's
I
not real. It still scares me though.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I mean, it scared us. Like,
Yes.
like I've
It
told
is
the
scary.
story a million times. Like editing that house scene at the end, I freaked
man.
myself out one time. And like I was editing late at night.
Oh,
But
it
I was
is.
the only one in the house, and I had to just turn the machines off and get the hell out of there. Like
Yeah.
I felt like there was something like about to touch me.
Ooh.
I mean, it was one of my scariest moments of my life, and it was while I was editing that scene, and I had, I shot, I was there.
You were there, yeah.
It's just a movie, but yeah, there was something. I mean, I think there was something in that movie, and it's like the three actors, the way that we shot it, the place we shot it, like the fact that we isolated the actors, the way we did it. I think like it captured, it really was like a psychological experiment that we filmed that these three actors let us do on them. And I think that it's one of these movies like Texas Chainsaw Massacre that like it's so raw that there's like something.
Yes.
It feels like something was captured on the
Yes.
on the video that's not right. Same thing with The Exorcist. Like The Exorcist for me, I feel like the whole production and like the making of that movie brought, and I don't know if it's evil or if it's something, it's something that later on science will explain. But I feel like when I watch The Exorcist, I feel like there's something caught in the film, like there's an energy. Same thing with Texas Chainsaw, and I think with Blair Witch too. Like there's just something about it that's like something joined the film, entered the film that we had nothing to do with.
Billy Graham, I think, once said there was actually evil inside the celluloid of the movie in The Exorcist. Yes.
Yeah,
I heard that.
I mean,
I've heard that.
Yeah. And then you see like everybody's careers afterwards, and like there's like some some things that happen on the set and stuff like. It's like I think there was some bad mojo, and that's why like when after Blair Witch, Dan and I. We wanted to just kind of completely stay away from horror. Like we tried to make a comedy after Blair Witch that didn't work out, but we were just so tired of being in that dark place
Right.
for so many years that I just needed to. We just needed to go in a completely different direction. That's why it took us so long to make Altered. You know, it was just
Yeah.
I was just burned out completely.
Yeah,
I think
can
it's
see
an
that.
important place, though. I think it's an important horror has an important place in film because you allow people this catharsis with it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, absolutely.
so I think
Yeah.
it's definitely. I'm glad that you went back to horror.
Yes.
Is what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
Yeah, I
You're
mean,
great at
It's a
it.
good thing.
Yeah, no. Well, thank you. I mean, I think like I never thought I would be a horror filmmaker. Like like if you look at my film school films, like mostly, comedies or action films, like, crime stuff, cops and stuff. So when Dan and I came up with the idea for Blair Witch, it was really the first horror movie idea that I had ever come up with, and I think probably for him as well. So, and so then after, Blair Witch hit, I kind of had to learn to be a horror filmmaker. Like I didn't have any horror ideas, and slowly I kind of became, I started watching more horror films. Not that I hadn't watched horror films, but for me, it was just another genre, you know what I mean? And also I don't really like being scared. Like I don't like horror movies that scare me. Like Exorcist is, like I had I don't know why I rewatched. I rewatched that like maybe 20 years ago, 15 years ago when they released it in the theaters again.
Yeah, that was
And
awesome.
That was
great.
I'm like, why the hell did I watch this movie again? Like, because it's just and the same thing. Like I bought the DVD, back in like 2000 or whatever when it came out, and the making of documentary. I watched it once, and I'm like, the making of documentary is freaking me out. Like,
Speaking
and then
of
I'm like,
I haven't watched the making of.
I never watched
yeah,
it. I never watched the actual movie. I'm like, why do I have this DVD? So I gave it to somebody. I'm like, I don't want to. I mean, it's just so basically.
Get it out of my house.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I was kind of like, I don't like being scared. Like I didn't gravitate naturally toward horror movies like other people. But you go back now as an adult, and you like, as a filmmaker, okay, I got to learn this. So and you just learn and kind of, try to use your instincts to to make scary films.
So speaking of making of stuff, that was Curse of the Blair Witch is so good. If Tara, I don't know if you saw that, but I think, did you guys have that premiere on like Sci-Fi before the movie was released? I think that's where I saw it for the first time. And that's what really got me going. Like, this is real. Oh my God, this is crazy.
No, it was crazy, man.
That was it was
like, it was like a little mockumentary about,
loved it.
The making about Blair Witch, about the legend, and
that was so good.
All that behind the scenes kind of stuff, like faux behind the scenes, was so good.
Yep, I love that stuff.
No, it was cool, and that was actually, that was like everything kind of lined up for Blair Witch, because we actually had shot a lot of that footage to be part of the movie. And then in the last minute, we pulled it all out, and then we were like, oh, we had this opportunity to do this special for Sci-Fi Channel, and they're like, I was just like, yeah, let's just put all that footage and write something around it, and
back when Sci-Fi showed scary movies, how about that?
Yeah,
yeah, I know, but it was cool. I mean, Blair Witch, and the same thing with the internet. Like there was the marketing of that movie was like
the website and everything.
Yeah, the website, all this stuff, like pushed all this stuff out. Yep. And the website and the web wasn't like, the internet wasn't big enough to like cross check, to be able to like, fact check what we were doing.
Right.
Yeah. So, I think a lot of people like you went into the theater thinking it was real, so.
Yeah.
So then what is, I know you're saying you don't like to be scared that much, but it seems Exorcist has really affected you, and a couple other movies. What is your favorite horror movie aside from the ones you've made?
Putting you on the spot here.
Wow.
Or like a favorite.
Yeah, that's
there are so many. Like I love The Shining and
so good.
Amityville Horror. I thought was it's a little cheesy, but it's still creepy as hell.
Still good.
I gotta say, the new Amityville,
I think
actually disturbs me. It freaks me out.
I do like the remake.
But the latest remake, right?
2005, Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so the original remake or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember liking it, but if you guys recommending it, maybe I'll check it out again.
It was pretty good.
It's
Yeah.
mostly Ryan Reynolds. He just freaks me out in it.
It was good.
Yeah.
He just
Yeah, I
scares
mean,
me
he's
in
They
it.
good.
add a few more things to like the backstory, and yeah, like you said, the original's kind of is a little bit cheesy. I mean, the book is outstanding, and the book is terrifying.
The book is terrifying, man.
It's so good. But yeah,
Yeah.
I did like the remake of this. I thought it was good. I thought it was
Yeah.
good.
But and then like Evil Dead 2, I love, like
Right.
just
That's
to
just
me is-
fun.
Just fun.
Yeah, that to me
it's
is
just fun.
that to me was like is the kind of horror movie that I that I want to make eventually. Like, I love that. That's the what I really love,
It's awesome.
But yeah, I like Paranormal Activity. I think is really great.
Well, and that definitely couldn't have happened without Blair Witch, I don't think. Like,
Nope.
that kind of movie.
I don't
absolutely.
think so. Yep. You're right.
Yeah. Well, and Oren Peli, who directed that movie and wrote it, like, he openly admits that he basically like studied Blair Witch and broke it down and like followed, the roadmap that we had, created for him. And he actually, when I met him, because we're friends now, that's the first, he was very like, hey, thanks, man, I wouldn't be here for you guys. And so,
That's so cool.
Yeah, he was really cool.
And now he's working with Rob Zombie, I think, on stuff. So how about that?
Yeah, he's doing all kinds of, but I like that one. I think, I love The Witch. I
The
thought
Witch is so
Hereditary
good.
We gotta
was
talk about
pretty damn good.
Yep.
Yeah, I think there's Babadook was really good. Like recent stuff. It Follows, I thought was really strong.
Oh, It Follows scared the crap out of me.
Yeah, it's really good. But yeah, I mean, I think that there's a lot of really great stuff out there. But yeah, all the classics. The Exorcist, of course, and then Jaws. The original monster movie.
Love
there.
Jaws.
But
We're going to need a bigger boat.
Oh,
yeah, I mean, so good.
yeah.
Like crazy good.
Yeah,
Like
it's
how
great.
like he was like 27 when he directed that.
I
or
don't even know if
something?
he was that old. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's. And I mean, he and Richard Dreyfuss are. They're not even 30 in that movie. It's unbelievable. Yep. Yep.
So.
All right. So, what are you working on now? Can you drop any
yes.
gossip on us and our listeners? Anything
Tease.
cool to tell us about?
I mean, I can kind of generally talk about stuff. We're writing a feature that we're kind of in the middle of, which Alejandro Brugues, another partner of ours, will direct eventually. Greg is writing it, and I'm kind of just helping out with that.
So this is
and
Haxon Films.
Yeah, I mean, Haxon. Yeah. Greg and I are the last two remaining.
I was going to say, yeah, Haxon is still in existence. So yes, it is.
Yeah, I mean, we've stopped being a production company. Because we indies. It's very hard to make a living making indie films. So we transferred to more like a writing directing partnership. Yeah, Greg is doing a lot of stuff, and then we're writing a show for Apple TV called Maldición, which is like curse in Spanish, like a curse. And we just turned in the pilot first draft, so we're still many steps away from actually getting green lit, but it's looking pretty good. And
Very
so
cool.
far,
Yeah.
and we're executive produced by Sam Raimi.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Nice.
which is awesome. Which
Nice.
it helps to have Sam Raimi.
Yeah, that's a
On your
very good
side.
thing.
For sure.
And then we're about to pitch another TV show in the next couple of weeks. I mean, we're really concentrating on television, but I'm also developing a bunch of scripts. Just got a first draft from Jamie Nash on a script that we're working together.
Oh, Jamie's great too.
Yeah, Jamie. We still do a lot of stuff together. And then I always get material sent to me that I've kind of tweak here and there, and so hopefully one of these. I'm really itching to make a film again. Like I've loved my time in television, and I definitely want to keep working in television because I think that there's like television really has opened up now, and like there's so many more interesting stories being told on television than in movies. I think like the diversity is amazing. So it's a really good opportunity to tell longer stories and for actors to stay in characters for longer, which I think is great. So we're concentrating on that, but I definitely am like really eager to like kind of show what I've learned on the TV side, with another film. So we'll see. Hopefully, in the next few years, we'll get something going.
Very
Yay,
good.
we're going to look forward to it.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And
no
then,
doubt.
but the big goal for me, in the next few years, is to bring a TV show to Maryland.
Oh, okay.
To the
Yes, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
That would
More
be awesome.
production
That's-
here
Yeah,
is
yeah.
always good.
Yeah.
That'd be very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Very good. Well, Ed, thank you so much for doing this. Seriously, this was amazing. We are really honored to have you on.
Definitely.
This was great.
So glad to
thanks.
have you.
Yeah, it was fun. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it was great getting to hear all your
Yeah.
thoughts on Seventh Moon and some of your other
Yes.
movies. Very exciting.
Yeah, anytime. I'm always around.
Oh, definitely. We would love to have you back. We plan on eventually doing probably all your movies.
We
So
could-
there's
I
opportunities
could talk.
to come back.
Yeah, I could probably talk about the Blair Witch for like 8, 9, 10 hours easily.
Yeah, that
so-
will be our 3-episode
That'd be
arc
like
for Matt.
Like a little mini series.
Yeah. That could go on for days.
Did you read 8 Days in the Woods?
I did
They're
not.
making a. Yeah, you should check
Ooh.
that out.
Okay, interesting.
Oh,
I've
we'll
been
both
to-
have to check that
I've
out.
definitely scoured through woodsmovie.com.
No, check out. It's a
Okay.
movie it's a book by Matt Blotzy.
Really?
He's the one that runs like there's a thing called the Blair Witch Experience on Facebook. It's like this
I think I've heard of
tour that
Sure.
he does
Mhm.
every year.
Mhm.
And I think we did the fifth year last year or sixth year. Anyway, he wrote a book about the Blair Witch that I think will pretty much be the book about the making of Blair Witch. Like he really did
Okay.
do his research and talk to everybody that is still
Wow.
alive.
That's
Oh,
impressive.
very
and
cool.
Yeah.
willing,
We'll
and
both
willing
have
to
to read
talk.
that.
So.
Yeah, I'm gonna check that
Definitely.
Yeah,
out.
check it out. It's a good book. It's a good
Okay.
read if you're a fan of the movie.
Oh yeah.
All right, guys.
All right. Thank
Yep.
you.
Thank you.
And listeners, before we sign off, we would like to ask you, if you enjoyed the podcast, please rate and review us on iTunes or wherever the heck you happen to be listening so that more people can find us. And don't forget, send us your movie suggestions and your thoughts on the movies we've watched so far, on all the cool stuff Ed just told us. You can send your thoughts on that to thescarymovieproject@gmail.com. Bye, everybody.
Bye bye.